There was a time when Greninja was a staple in competitive Pokemon. It wasn't broken, but you had to respect it. Now, it's sitting under 0.5% usage, basically gone. Is Greninja actually dead? Or did we all just move on? I've decided to find out by building a team around it. But first, it's important to understand what went wrong. And to do so, we need to go back to where it all started. The year is 2013. Pokemon X and Y has just launched on the 3DS. A brand new region, fully 3D graphics, 3 new starters, and the introduction of Fairy type. It felt huge at the time. I grew up in a poor family, so getting a new Pokemon game wasn't a normal thing. But I just started my first job stacking shelves at the grocery store, and I saved every dollar I could. That January, on my birthday, I finally brought my own copy of Pokemon X. And out of everything the game introduced, one thing stood out to me the most. Not the graphics, not the story, not even the roller skates. It was this tiny blue frog. I usually pick the fire starter in every Pokemon game, but something about Froakie felt different. By the time I became champion, that little blue frog had turned into something else entirely. Greninja wasn't just my starter anymore. I got way too attached to that thing. And then, in 2016, something happened that made Greninja feel even more unstoppable. The demo for Sun and Moon released, along with Ash's Greninja, a special form powered by the unique Battle Bond ability. After scoring a knockout, it transformed into a faster, stronger version of itself, essentially snowballing through anything in its path. Playing through Alola with it felt unfair in the best possible way, but unfortunately that era didn't last. With the release of Sword and Shield, Ash's Greninja became unobtainable. Battle Bond itself was reworked. It now grants a +1 increase to attack, special attack, and speed after getting a knockout. Still powerful, but much harder to activate consistently. And Greninja's other signature ability, Protean, was also heavily nerfed. Protean used to change your type every single move. Now, it only activates once per switch. It feels like everything that made Greninja special was slowly taken away. So it's no surprise that Greninja has fallen from his former glory. However, I wasn't ready to give up yet, because if there's even the smallest chance it can still work, I want to find it. Building a team around Greninja would come with a ton of questions. The first question being, which ability does Greninja actually want? There are 2 options that I mentioned before, but one is far more flexible. Protean. With the ability to change typing at the touch of a button, we essentially get a Terra type every time we switch in, but flexibility isn't the same as power. And without the explosive pressure of Battle Bond, Greninja never would have reached the heights it once did. That's what scared me. If I chose Protean, I might gain consistency, but I'd lose the identity that made Greninja terrifying in the first place. Therefore, I had to pick Battle Bond. If this team was going to work, I couldn't play it safe. I had to go all in. But the moment that I locked that in, I hit another wall. Greninja doesn't really have any kind of special tech. Its best coverage either hits my own Pokemon, misses at the worst times, or just isn't strong enough to threaten the restricted legends dominating the format. And that's when it really started to sink in. Maybe Greninja wasn't just underused. Maybe it was outclassed. That forced me to make a bold decision. If I couldn't give Greninja unpredictable tech, I was going to tailor it to specifically counter the meta. With Miraidon and Koraidon everywhere, Blizzard was the first move on the list. And with both Calyrex forms running rampant, Dark Pulse was next. Protect for longevity, and Hydro Pump to threaten fire types like Incineroar. It looked solid, but there was a problem. Blizzard misses. And if Blizzard misses at the wrong time, the entire plan falls apart. That's when I added Alolan Ninetales. Ninetales solves the accuracy issue instantly. Snow makes Blizzard 100% accurate, Aurora Veil reduces incoming damage, Icy Wind controls speed, and Moonblast applies pressure. At least it looked perfect, but adding Ninetales revealed something uncomfortable. We were fragile. Very fragile. With the overwhelming stat pools of the restricted legends around us, this team could evaporate in a single turn. And if Greninja never survives long enough to activate Battle Bond, then this entire experiment ends before it even begins. So it was time to select my restrictors. I needed something that could stand in front of the strongest Pokemon in the format and refuse to move. With the structure of the team already starting to form, Calyrex Ice made the most sense. Calyrex Ice is incredibly bulky, it snowballs with knockouts, it can stall with Leech Seed, and when you add leftovers, it becomes a wall. But walls attract pressure, and once Calyrex becomes the obvious anchor, opponents focus everything to break it. That gave me my first half of the team, but it had a glaring weakness: fire types, and the most dangerous of them all, Koraidon. There's a saying, if you can't beat him, join him, but I didn't want to join him. I wanted to destroy them. That meant I needed something that could threaten Koraidon directly and survive long enough to do it, and that's when I added Miraidon. Usually Miraidon runs as a glass cannon, fast, devastating, fragile, but adding another fragile sweeper would undo everything I've just built. Because of that, I had to change the formula. Assault Vest Miraidon. Now it survives the neutral hits, now it trades blows, now it threatens without folding instantly. With this, the core was set, but cores don't win games. The last two Pokemon had to glue everything together. Incineroar gives us fake out pressure and weakens physical threats, and Ogerpon Cornerstone gives us redirection and completes the Grass Water Fire core. This was it. Every major weakness addressed, every role defined. It was clean, but that usually means something's about to go wrong. None of it mattered if Greninja couldn't perform. If Greninja was going to work, it had to be now. I queue up for the first game and immediately get hit with the worst possible message. Battle Bond Greninja can't be used in ranked VGC. I thought this was the end. I'm not kidding. I just sat there staring at the screen. But instead of giving up, I made the executive decision to pivot. Hydro Pump out, Water Shuriken in, Protean, loaded dice. If this doesn't work, nothing will. Now it's really time to test out this theory. We queue into our first match and immediately see Miraidon and Lunala on the other side. We lead Miraidon and Ninetales. This matchup is scary, but it's also playable. The plan is simple. Reduce their damage and buy time to position Calyrex. So we Terra Electric Miraidon and fire off Snarl, while Ninetales sets Aurora Veil. This is actually a really good position for us. A few turns later, Calyrex Ice hits the field, Glacial Lance comes down and picks up a double KO. Suddenly, we're back in the game. Now we finally bring in Greninja. If Water Shuriken picks up this KO, we stabilize the board. I go for it. It doesn't drop. Suddenly, everything gets awkward. Now we're forced into one final damage check. Dazzling Gleam into Ursaluna. If this KOs, we might still steal the game, but it lives, and that's it, we lose. That one hurts. We were right there. Two roles go differently, and that one's ours. Next match, we see Calyrex Shadow and Tornadus. Fast offense. Dangerous, but manageable. Again, we lead Miraidon and Ninetales. The plan is to slow the game down before Calyrex can snowball, but the opening turns go wrong quickly. I push a little too aggressively, both Ninetales and Miraidon go down, and like that, we're suddenly behind. But the game isn't over yet. We find an opening and fire back. Calyrex picks up a double KO on Koraidon and Calyrex Shadow. Now we're back in it. And it all comes down to one move, Blizzard. If this hits, we might win the game. I click it and it misses. And like that, the momentum disappears. Thunderclap comes out, game's over. That one's on me. We had it. I just got greedy. Game 3, we lead Greninja and Incineroar into Calyrex Shadow and Brute Bonnet. Finally, a chance to put pressure on early. The biggest threat here is Spore. If Greninja gets put to sleep immediately, then the whole plan falls apart. So I fake out Brute Bonnet. Except it's holding Covert Cloak. The fake out does nothing and Greninja gets spored instantly. Now we're stuck watching the worst possible scenario unfold. Turn 1 asleep, turn 2 asleep, turn 3 asleep. By the time Greninja wakes up, the damage is already done. We lose 2 Pokemon before we even get a real turn. Miraidon drops shortly after, and that's the game. This one wasn't even close. We never had control of it. And the worst part, they didn't even have to respect Greninja. At this point, something started to feel wrong. wrong. It was the same problem every game. Even when we position Greninja well, nothing's dropping. Every turn felt like we were playing a Pokemon down, which meant the rest of the team had to carry even harder. I kept thinking the same thing. If we just had Battle Bond, this would be so much easier. But this isn't that world. And eventually, I had to ask myself a difficult question. Maybe Greninja wasn't the problem. Maybe I was. So instead of changing the team, I changed the way I played it. Greninja would still come to every battle, but I stopped trying to make it the hero. If Greninja can't carry, maybe it doesn't need to. The problem is, Greninja isn't built to support anything. It doesn't have bulk. It doesn't have strong utility. If this idea fails, it becomes deadweight even faster than before. But there was one thing Greninja still had: unpredictability. Nobody expects to see it in this meta anymore. So instead of forcing it to deal damage, I decided to start using it as bait. Position it like a threat, force opponents to respect it, and while they focus on Greninja, the rest of the team goes to work. If this works, maybe we still have a chance. If it doesn't, maybe Greninja really is gone for good. Next match, Raging Bolt and Koraidon. We lead Calyrex and Greninja. This is real pressure. Right away we pivot. Ninetales comes in to shut down the sun, while Calyrex Terra Waters to survive the incoming Flare Blitz. Now we can actually stabilize. Aurora Veil goes up. Leech Seed lands on Solgaleo. Ninetales drops shortly after, but that's fine. It already did its job. Miraidon enters the field. Calyrex fires off Glacial Lance, and Koraidon barely survives. 5%. That's the kind of number that usually comes back to haunt you, but this time we're still stable. I switch Miraidon out and bring Greninja back in. A Helping Hand Dragon Claw goes straight into Greninja. It survives. Calyrex answers with another Glacial Lance. Koraidon drops. That's huge. Raging Bolt comes in next, and this is the moment. Greninja fires off Blizzard. Indeedee goes down. Raging Bolt takes heavy damage, and Greninja has finally made an impact, but Dragon Pulse takes it out right after. And honestly, that's fine. This time, Greninja did its job. Calyrex cleans up Raging Bolt, Solgaleo returns, Miraidon comes back in, 2 Electro Drifts later, Solgaleo drops. And that's the game. One more match. Fluttermane and Zamazenta on the other side. We lead Calyrex and Ninetales. Immediately, Kyogre switches in and removes the snow. So much for the clean Aurora Veil setup. Instead of forcing it, we pivot. Leech Seed goes into Zamazenta. If we can't control the weather, we control the board. Ninetales falls to a heavy slam, but Calyrex survives thunder from Kyogre even while Terra Water. That survival keeps us alive. Ogerpon comes in. We protect Calyrex to bait Body Press, and Ivy Cudgel removes Kyogre. Raging Bolt replaces it. That's the first big turn in our favour. The board's got messy. Ogerpon draws attention with Follow Me, while Calyrex chips away at Raging Bolt. Nothing crazy, just steady pressure. Zamazenta has been slowly getting worn down, and Leech Seed finishes it off. Greninja enters the field, and Fluttermane joins it. Now things get dangerous. We double protect to remove Greninja's fairy weakness and avoid Thunderclap pressure. Fluttermane fires off Dazzling Gleam, and Greninja answers with Blizzard. It connects. Calyrex follows up. Fluttermane drops. Now it's just Raging Bolt. Thunderclap tries to pick off Greninja. We protect, and it fails. Next turn, Greninja goes for Water Shuriken. Priority into priority. Thunderclap fails again. Calyrex fires one last Glacial Lance. Raging Bolt drops, and that closes it out. Out of all the off-meta teams I've built so far, this one fought back the hardest. Greninja isn't what it used to be, but that doesn't mean it's useless. It just means you have to work harder for it. And honestly, I think that's the point. This team didn't dominate, it didn't run through the ladder, but when it won, it felt earned. And I'd take that over autopiloting a meta team any day. If there's a Pokemon you love, find a way to make it work. It might not be optimal, it might not be easy, but it'll mean a whole lot more when it does. You only get one run in this life, you might as well make it yours. If you enjoyed this one, I've got a lot more Pokemon I want to try bringing back. So if you want to follow the journey, stick around. And if you're not ready to leave yet, I've got another challenge on the screen right now.